In this section, we're going to cover the X7, not wanting to recock. I'm going to bring in a gun and show you an X7 that doesn't want to recock. You can see that when you pull the trigger, the bolt comes to a dead stop. Sometimes it can even sputter a little bit, and you can feel just a little short burst of air come out of the barrel. But for the most part, the gun just doesn't want to recock. So we'll go ahead, we'll set this gun off to the side, and I'll go through this X7 with you and show you some of the things that would cause that problem. What we'll first start off by doing is we'll remove our push pins for the foregrip. We'll remove our foregrip, remove our barrel, remove all the rest of the push pins. You also want to make sure that your gun's not in the cocked back position. That'll push your end cap out of the back end of the gun. So we'll go ahead and remove the rest of these push pins. We'll remove our end cap. One thing that can cause your gun not to recock is if you're missing your guide pin. If your guide pin's not in the back end of your drive spring, it's not going to guide the spring straight, and it's not going to be able to compress the spring properly. So when you go to fire a shot, the bolt will move forward, but it won't have enough pressure behind it to open up the valve and fire the shot. So you always want to make sure that your guide pin is inserted into the back end of your drive spring. So we'll set that off to the side. Pull our grip frame down. Take our magazine out. Slide our mag well off. Pull the tombstone out. Slide this off to the side. And what we're going to do from there is we're going to remove our internals out of the back end of the gun. I usually tip the gun, and your bolt insert will fall out. You can kind of set that off to the side. Tip the gun and just shake it, and your internals should slide out of the back end. Sometimes they'll be a little hard to get out of the back end, and you can loosen up some of the 1/8 Allen bolts to help slide the internals out of the back end. From there, we'll just kind of set that off to the side. One thing that can also cause the marker to not recock every time would be a bad front bolt O-ring, a crack along the bottom side of the power tube assembly, or a bad rear bolt O-ring. The rear bolt O-ring is probably one of the most common ones that we run into, the bad rear bolt O-ring or a crack in the power tube. So we'll go ahead, we'll set that off to the side, and we'll dig a little deeper into this marker just to show you some other things that we commonly run into. More than often, it's a reassembly issue. We get a lot of people that get the cocking handle spring and the drive spring backwards or flip-flopped. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll disassemble this rear sight. And I'm just using a drill with a 1/8 bit. Set that off to the side. Be careful not to strip those screws out when you're trying to remove them. From there, you should be able to remove the left side of the receiver. We'll go ahead and set that off to the side. Another real common issue that we run into, like I was saying before, is when people go back to reassembling the gun, they'll get these two springs flip-flop. What I mean by that is they'll get the drive spring behind the cocking handle spring and the cocking handle spring behind the rear bolt. The cocking handle spring doesn't have enough tension to push the rear bolt into the valve and open it up to fire the gun correctly. So you want to make sure that you don't get these flip-flopped. You can see that there is some minor differences between the two springs. The drive spring is a little bit shorter in length, and the gauge of wire that is used there is a little bit thicker. You can see that the cocking handle spring is a little bit longer, and they use a smaller gauge of wire, and it's a little flimsier, as you can see. So we'll go ahead, we'll put that back into place. You will also notice that your cocking handle spring does kind of go past the groove in the receiver, and that's okay. That's actually designed that way. We'll go ahead to the ball latch. This is another very common issue that we run into. You can see here that the position of the ball latch is facing the correct way. So we'll go ahead, we'll turn this backwards and show you what would happen if it was in backwards. The front bolt makes contact with the ball latch, pushes it towards the barrel adapter, and stops the whole bolt assembly from moving. This will cause your marker to not recock or to stutter. We'll go ahead, we'll face this the correct way, and when the bolt passes over, it will fold the ball latch over and lay it down flat. Then your front bolt will be able to go into the barrel adapter and your marker will be able to fire. And this covers everything that would cause your X7 marker not to recock.